So we're coming to the end of your term as mayor. Was it what you imagined it to be?
Well, it's difficult to imagine what it was going to be. I had a brief glimpse being the deputy, but I think on balance, yeah, it was pretty much. I wasn't surprised by so much. It was maybe a little bit busier than I probably thought at first. There were periods that were just crazy. I'm not saying all year. There've been a little bit, there've been an odd time when, you've had a bit of breathing space, but there have been periods, say, of a month or two where there's been almost no respite, no day off, no couple of hours off. I wasn't quite expecting that quite so much. I think the reaction from the public has been unbelievable, to be honest. That surprised me a little bit. How consistently positive that's been, and that's been a real great surprise, I suppose. But I wouldn't have changed. I'd definitely have done it. I'd definitely do it again. It's been a fantastic thing to do, fantastic experience. Sort of a life-defining thing. I mean, I've done some radical things in my life, but this is this really is something else. Being the mayor of my home city.
And it's been a very busy year. Obviously, the calendar of a mayor usually is, but your year especially, there's been a lot of engagements. What was your particular favourite, if you could choose one?
It really is. I get asked this quite a lot, and I've sort of got it down to a top 3 or 4. But all the fundraisers have been incredible, all of them, because they've been so well attended. We've made so much money out of them. But in a really odd way, the thing I keep sort of coming back to is maybe the thing that I enjoyed the most, or I don't know, will live with the longest, was probably my trip to a little French village called Foncvillers, which was straight after the gig, which was, I don't know if that's anything to do with it, but we had the gig. I had a bit of a day off to recover, and then I went to Foncvillers, and we've got this sort of century-long association with this very small village right on the Somme battlefield. It was totally destroyed, obviously, in the First World War, and the people of Derby paid for it to be reconstructed. And there's been a few mayoral visits over the last century to Foncvillers, and that there hadn't been one since 2011. I just felt pretty inexpensive trip. And I think I've saved quite a bit of money this year over the mayoralty normally. So I went there just to keep that association going, and that was special, actually. And they took me around the Somme battlefield, showed me the military cemeteries of the Derby and Notts troops. It was quite a bizarre thing to go all that way and see, the Derby and Notts sort of gravestones. But that was fantastic. The gig obviously was incredible. Filled with a little bit of anxiety, I've got to say, but went incredibly well. I love meeting quite early on. I met the Deputy High Commissioner of India. He came over for the Women's World Cup, and we put on a reception here for him. And there was a lot of planning went into that because we wanted to get that right, and that was particularly good. To meet him, it was a great occasion. The fundraisers have been off the scale. The ball, just incredible. The amount of people who came, it was a great atmosphere as well. It's really hard to pick though, a best one. There's been so many, hundreds of really good ones, and hardly anything that I haven't enjoyed. To be absolutely honest, it's been a fantastic year.
And obviously, when you set out on your term, you've had a number of causes which you're going to fundraise and raise money for. Can you just tell us a bit, for people who don't know what they were, just go into detail, and can you give us an indication of how much you think you will have raised?
Yeah. Well, the charities, I picked 5. there was one that I didn't have to think about because I went there a few years ago, Derbyshire Children's Holiday Centre. It's been around for 126, 27 years now. A really special place, and that was always going to be a place I was going to fundraise for. But a common theme of my time on the council has been, a recurring theme has been a charity called Safe and Sound, who protect children against child sexual exploitation. So that was a pretty easy second one to choose. I've got an association as a foster carer of quite some years with another Derby children's charity called Children First. So I chose them as well. And linked to my fostering activities, I was very aware of what the British Red Cross does for asylum seekers, actually, in Derby, and that was another cause I wanted to support because they do a fantastic job on a regular basis of helping, signposting, getting people in touch with relatives, etc. And as a trustee of the museums, I've so enjoyed being a trustee of the museums. It's such a great thing to be involved with because it's been a success story from start to finish, really. I also raised money for the Derby Museums because it's a charity. So that's me 5. Obviously, raising for 5 charities, I needed to raise a bit more than normal. And I don't know exactly what the figure is. I mean, genuinely, I think they're still working that out now. There's money still to come in. It's well, I started off with a target of 25 grand. We exceeded that a few months back, to be honest. I'm pretty sure it's going to be over 50. What the final total is, I hesitate to say, but I'm hoping well in excess of 50. Which is pretty amazing, to be honest. No one's given us, a load of money. It's all been hard fought. We've just put on loads of different, very, very different events. From a quiz, which was great, slice of India meal, the gig, the band I used to play and did a gig, and we got about 430, 40 people for that. Came from all over the country to see that one. The big lockup was just a real surprise and a success all round. That raised over £8,000. And the 10K, which got me a bit fitter. I think we've probably raised it around 5 grand for that one, somewhere in that ballpark. And the ball, which was just the most ridiculous fundraising event I think anyone can recall. We pretty much got the original target in one night. That was off the scale, and that included a lot of sponsorships. A lot of businesses put money up front to ensure that it was going to go ahead, and that was really special. So we've got a lot of people to thank. Really, really, right across the board. A lot of businesses have put their hands in their pockets and helped out. A lot of smaller business people, did the lockup. Been so generous, really, really amazing. So we've done well. We've done really well. I definitely will give all the charities something really meaningful. And I think as well, another thing's worth saying that at the start of the year they were sort of so pleased that we were raising money for them, but as pleased with the fact that they would have their profiles raised. And I didn't really get that, to be honest, at the start of the year. I didn't see this being a massive deal, raising the profile. But to be honest, all the stuff we've done, it definitely has. Hundreds and hundreds of events we've done where we've talked about the charities. Almost every time I get up to speak to a group, which is almost every event I go to pretty much, you're asked to talk about what the year's been like, who you're raising money for, etc. So I don't know how many thousands of people have heard those 5 charities' names, many thousands. So the profile has been raised. I'll totally accept that now, but also we've gotten something meaningful as well.
And when we were sat here this time a year ago when you were just becoming the mayor of Derby. We talked about your passion for obviously being a foster carer in this city, your passion for fostering and adoption. You've been involved in a number of the information events. What would be your message to people in terms of, you know, encouraging them to maybe consider fostering?
Yeah. Well, I'm always trying to, you know, advocate for the fostering service. I've done it for 18 years now, and I'm not going to pretend that it, you know, every day is a laugh a minute. Obviously, it can be a difficult thing. So at times it's obviously great, and it can be very rewarding. We just got into a real hole with not getting enough people through the door, and it's not just Derby, just nationally there's a real problem recruiting foster carers. We've done much better this year, and I don't know if that's anything to do with the fact that we've been relentlessly plugging it. It probably helps. The recruitment events we've done, I think I've been to all of them. The numbers have been really good coming along. You know, it's a big leap of faith. I totally get that, and some people, you know, take a long time to take that step. They think about it, think it's a good idea, and then spend sometimes years sort of mulling it over and not quite making that next step. But yeah, please give it a go. You know, what I was saying to people the other night is, even if you start the process off, the actual approval process takes many months. You know, I think we try to do it in 6 months. Often it's longer than that. So you will have had every eventuality explored in that time. If it's not for you, you'll know. But you know, give it a go. I mean, we really do need foster carers. Our children need foster carers. And come and work for the city, please.
And obviously, with being the mayor of Derby, you meet a lot of you know, amazing people along the way. Is there anyone in particular who left an impression with you on your time as mayor, or?
Well, there's so many people. I mean, there's staff in the council house who've just left an impression. They've been absolutely amazing. For me as the mayor, I tell you, I mean, I'm not name dropping at all, but a couple of, I met a guy called Cllr John Peace, who is the chair of the Midlands Engine, and yeah, he was a special guy. That was great to meet him. He's also the Lord Lieutenant of Nottinghamshire. The Duke of Devonshire has been amazingly good with me this year. Absolutely fantastic. Contributed to my charity fundraising, and I've known him because of the association with the museum. You know, he's a real lover of art, which is great for me. There's been loads of staff who just got so much. I mean, Andy Hills, another of my sort of priorities for this year has been just in whatever small way to try and just keep reminding people about the environment, our necessity to need to reduce carbon emissions, and I've done a few events with an officer here called Andy Hills, who takes university students to Pride Park to sort of get them to understand how that was regenerated. I met an amazing guy called Gethin Davis, who's just retired from the council. He was the one really that project managed the regeneration of Pride Park, which is some major feat. Yeah, so it's some fantastic people I've met. I'm going to take a while to think about, you know, this thing at some point in the near future and just reflect on what's happened. But yeah, I've had so much support from a lot of our officers, a lot of people volunteering to do things for different events, going way over and above what you would reasonably expect, I think, and just the general public getting behind things. So yeah. amazing.
And you're the first mayor really that's tried to tap into the young demographic in Derby, adopting social media and using that. How was that experience for you, using social media?
Well, it was an experience for me just to use social media, because it's the first social media I've done, and I just felt that I sort of I ought to really, just to engage and also to tell people really what I was doing. That was the fundamental reason. But I think that's worked pretty well, you know. I ended up with, I don't know, about 400 and something followers, but it was just a way of getting a message out there, and of course a lot of people retweeting things, so there was at times quite a good message getting out there. I think that worked pretty well. I didn't get a lot of stick, I'm glad to say. I wasn't sure how it was going to go. You know, some social media, there's a bit of fear. You just end up with all sorts of stuff you don't necessarily need. But I think most people were pretty well behaved and restrained, and I think appreciated the fact that I was in an apolitical role. So I mean, I was never tweeting political things. It was just what I was doing, who I was with, who I was seeing, and promoting the charities and promoting, you know, good things that are going on. There's so many good things that are going on that the wider public doesn't hear about because it's not controversial and it's not news. But as the mayor, you're in a privileged position to see the other side of the city, the other side of sort of civic life that is generally positive, and people volunteering and helping and just making a difference, and that's a great thing.
Do you have any sort of regrets from your term, or anything you'd slightly do different if you had the chance again? Yeah,
there's actually two things. I've thought of two things. I didn't at the start of the year say that I would go and visit every school, because I didn't honestly think I'd get a chance. I sort of wish I did, really, because the school visits were amazing. There wasn't a single one that wasn't amazing. And in the end, I think I probably only got round, I don't know, 20, 30 schools. There's a lot I didn't go to. So yeah, if I was doing it again, I would go to every school. And every school I went to, I think everyone I went to, I invited to come to the council house. Bring their school council, bring, you know, a limited number of people, obviously. And so we had a lot of schools coming here to the council house for a bit of a tour, and that was really good. The other thing, I suppose, it's not a regret, but yeah, in an ideal world, it would have been great to have some sort of environmental legacy, but I suppose that would require some money, to be honest. You know, we had discussions with the regeneration students, the university students, about, you know, what would be a great policy to take forward. I suppose I won't be here now to implement that, but yeah, I suppose if I could have chosen anything, it would have been great to have a real legacy. But there you go, can't have everything. I've not done badly.
Just in terms of, obviously, the future, there'll be a number of mayors after you. What one bit of advice do you think you'd give to anyone succeeding you?
Yeah. Well, I suppose maybe it isn't obvious. I got a phone call from one of my predecessors, Paul Pegg. It must have been just around the time I became the mayor, and he said, just think very quickly about fundraising, because I think a lot of mayors become the mayor and don't think too much about it for a while. I mean, I had already thought about fundraising, I've got to say, and I'd already thought of 2 or 3 things I was going to do. But yeah, maybe it's probably an easy thing to just become the mayor, get into the sort of the routine of going to event after event after event, and not thinking too much about raising money until maybe after Christmas. Maybe it's getting a bit too late. So yeah, I think you need to get on with it early doors. Because the bottom line is it takes several months to plan some of these events, so you've got to be thinking really early on. And there were some things we were scuppered by raising money because you only get the 1 year term. If you had, say, I'm not suggesting we have 2 year terms, but if you did a 2 year term, you can arrange some things in the first year to happen in the second year, things like collections at, say, Derby County, or events in schools where they're planning the whole year at the start and then you can't change it. So, yeah, you've got to get into it very quickly. And maybe we didn't even, I say we, had a lot of support, but maybe we could have done it even quicker in hindsight and planned some of these things really early. So we took advantage of organisations that planned their fundraising very early in the year, yeah. So that was the advice, I suppose.
And finally, if you could sum up the 12 months and how it's been your term in a couple of sentences, how would you sum it up?
Well, yeah, I'm pretty sure it's been life-changing for me. My profile is changed definitely because I go places and people recognise me now they didn't before, unless you're into the beyond. So that's changed a little bit, but yeah, I might need to just have a really good think about the year, and maybe how it's affected me will become obvious in the next few months or years. But it's just been a great year, a great experience. I didn't think we'd raise the amount of money we've raised, and for me that was always the measure of how successful I was going to be. Just to get up on that last day and say how much I'd raised, it had to be good, and definitely it has been good. So I can quite confidently do my final speech now. Yeah, very sad to be leaving the council, really sad to be leaving the council for a period. I'm very, very hopeful that I'll be coming back, but yeah, for me, I'd do it again. It's been a great honour. It's a great institution. A lot of people still don't quite understand the mayoralty, probably because there are very different models of mayors around the country and around the world. But ours is a great one. That sort of impartiality. No one gives you a hard time. Everyone respects the institution. And a lot of people clearly want the mayor to go along and just be part of whatever celebration or event they're having, and it just makes it a bit more special. And it's been a fantastic thing to be part of that. And my wife has absolutely loved it as well. She's been an incredible mayoress. I think she'll be even more sad to end this than I will be, to be honest. I mean, genuinely, she's absolutely loved it. She's done over 200 engagements herself, which is probably more than some mayors do a whole year. But yeah, I'll miss it. But there you go. All good things come to an end.